Alumni, I'm here to promote two different ideas. One of them is the promotion on the shir that you're going to hear right after on Haman and Amalek. Guys, the title's wrong. It's really why does Amalek hate us and why we hate Amalek. I hope you enjoy it. But more than that, I want to discuss something what Haman tried saying about the Klal Yisrael. Haman was the master of Lashon Hara, and when he went to Achashverosh, he basically said, this is a people that is mifurah, they're scattered all over the place, mifurah, there's no actus on them. Guys, we might be scattered in different places, that's just the way the world is. But mifurah, that we're not together, I know we're very busy and sometimes we want to be just left alone. But we got to have actus. When Klal Yisrael has actus, when we come together, we're dynamite. And therefore, the Nativ family, yes, we have a lot of actus, and there's a lot of us all over. We have the opportunity for the Shabbaton coming up in just 2 weeks. And when you got it about 2 weeks over here, guys, this is so important to make the investment. This is where Haman tried getting us. He tried getting us that we're not together. This is where we get him back. When we come together and join together, and the Rebbeim are making an effort. Believe me, again, guys, make the effort. You have no idea, even though we're so busy, but taking that time to come together, that we are a nation together, we are a family together. We care about you, and we want you all to be together. In Tainan, it says, Misha Nichnes Av. Anybody know the Lashon? Mamaytim b'simcha. Alright, and what do you do to be mamayit b'simcha? You know what you do? Ashkenazi don't take showers already when that happens. Farm a little makeup on it. You don't eat your meat, your wine. There's all kinds of things that we do to mamayit. Misha nichnes adar marbin b'simcha. How are you marbin b'simcha, Benjamin?
Mordechai.
Benji? Okay, I'll get it down. How do you marve b'simcha?
Alcohol.
By drinking, so we should all be drinking right now. Mishenichnes Adar. The Gemara doesn't say anything on what you need to be doing to be being marve b'simcha. And that leaves us a big opening to talk, right? So here we go. Megillah Esther in the 5th parak. Uvo HaMelech v'Haman. Sorry, the Uvo HaMelech Haman. Esther invites the Melech and Haman to the big Suda, and all of a sudden, Haman feeling so great. You guys read the story? You know what's going on? Okay, guys, I'm going to give you a great eitzah. Read the Megillah over the next week or so. I'm supposed to look over here. Okay.
First one is the class.
What?
It goes through each
Oh, that's right. So, Mordechai, Haman goes back. Who does he see? Mordechai not bending, not bowing, not showing any credence to him, and he's furious. Comes into his house where all his loved ones are. What does he say? He says, starts bragging. It's ridiculous. Guys, take a look. It's chapter Hey, Yud Aleph. Just to watch Haman's behavior over here. He's going to give us a big insight. Let's see where it is. So Haman comes into his house. He sees, he left here, what?
He counts all of his riches, and then
he
gathers his friends and wife, and he says that I have everything, but I'm still not happy because Mordechai the Jew won't bow to me.
Unbelievable! You guys hear that? Listen to all the expressions. He was Sameach v'tov lev, and then when he saw Mordechai, he's furious. Comes into his house. And he starts relating his kavod, his wealth, how many children he has, how the Melech brought him up so high and he's higher than anyone else. And he says, and even Esther the Malka wants just me and him over there. Now, what do you think? This guy should be happy?
Yeah.
And he says, it's worthless as long as one thing's missing. Guys, this happens to be absolutely ridiculous. I was really wealthy and with a lot of kids. I have a lot of honor being in TV. Anyway, how could it be that one little factor throws him completely off? Guys, this is Amalek, and this is us. We all act like this in our life because the seed, the Zeh of Amalek has crept into our beings, it has influenced us, it has penetrated us, and this is the difficulty of Amalek, and that's what we're going to talk about. What's the title of the shir? Either the Haman within us, or why Amalek hates us and we hate Amalek, or the roots of Amalek and why the world can't come to its completion as long as we have Amalek here. Okay? So we're going to go a little bit into the depths of Amalek. Now back to our question. How do we be happy in Adar, especially when there's Amalek in the world? I heard an unbelievable answer to this. What makes a person sad in this world? Like depressed, that they want to commit suicide?
Disappointment.
What? Disappointment. Down. No one's there for them. They're all alone. Meaning, what do you try to do with a suicide victim? We're there for you. You try to build them up. But when it comes down to it, when a person is hopeless, it means there is no one there for them. They gave up. What's it worth it anymore? You know what's a great simcha? When someone taps you and says, I'm there with you. Do you want to hear a crazy story? This story was the most crazy story. I cry over these stories. I'm very sensitive. I'll try not to. It's on video. Okay. There was a guy who was who received a what do you call it? A assignment, and he was to give out a few little badges that says "You make a difference to me." And when you're supposed to, you give it to the person, and that person gives it to another person, and that person gives it to another person, and you do the research and find out what happened. So the kid is in school, he was in high school, who can I give this to? You know what? There was this junior executive, works for a company, and he's been spending a lot of time with me, helped me figure out myself, where I'm going, what I should be doing. So he goes over to him and he says, Josh, you really spent a lot of time with me. I want to give you this. And he puts a little ribbon on him saying, you made the difference for me. I was like so honored, oh my gosh, this is really nice. Of course I did it for you. And then the kid said, listen, I'm giving you 2 more. Please give it to someone with giving him the other one and following through on my assignment. So the junior executive was like, who am I going to give it to? And then his boss walked in. And he said, I'm going to give it to my boss. And he goes to his boss and says, boss, I want you to know something. I gained so much from you. You are really a genius. And I love working here. And he gives it to his boss, and the boss was like, oh my God, I never got anything like this. I thought I was a grumpy boss, tough and everything. And he told him the story to give it to someone else. So the boss is coming home, thinking who should give it to. And he thought, I'm going to give it to my son. And he comes in, and as he walks in and he greets his son, how like teenagers are? You guys are teenagers. The son is like walking out like that, and barely bumps into his father as he's going out. And he says, son, wait 1 second. The son says, no, I gotta go. And he starts walking away. And all of a sudden, no, son, he takes him and he gives him this badge saying, you know what? I know I'm busy, and I know I'm tough on you, and I know I sometimes give you a hard time, but you know what? You are so special to me. And here it is for you. And he puts it on him. And you know what happened? The kid looked at it and started hysterically crying. Hysterically. The father didn't know what he did. I get very emotional in this story. Anyway, what happened was the kid at that moment was actually going out to take his car and crash and commit suicide because he felt no one loved him, no one cared for him. And when he got that from his father, he couldn't handle it. Of course, he didn't commit suicide. When a person knows they're loved for and cared about, it's a different world in this world. That's what makes a person happy. You know what Megillah Esther's about? It's Megala the Hester. We felt that HaKadosh Baruch Hu abandoned us. We didn't know where he was. I mentioned last week that Yecheskel, the elders asked Yecheskel and Navi, maybe we don't have to keep mitzvahs anymore. After all, we're in exile. Nebuchadnezzar exiled us. We're slaves now. Hashem abandoned us. We don't have any other thing to do. And that is depressing. And what's the whole Megillah Esther? Megala, it's a Giloy, it's revealing to us that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is with us. Guys, when we realize someone is with us and he cares for us and he loves us, and you just go start thinking about history and all the things, it creates a tremendous simcha. The whole story of Megillah Esther is a simcha because people are depressed when they're abandoned. And when you realize that Kodesh Baruch Hu is with us, it is awesome. Guys, Suit of Achashverosh. You know what the Medrash says happened at the Suit of Achashverosh? Who's the guys reading Megillah Esther? What was Achashverosh wearing?
The big day Kohen Gadol.
Big day Kahuna. They saw the Kalim of the Beis Hamikdash being brought out. Now, when you learn Megillah, you see that there's a tremendous machloket when the 70 years was. Did the 70 years finish or not finish? People felt that the 70 years was finished and it's over. And they were broken. They were really broken when they saw the Kalim of the Beis Hamikdash. Guys, could you imagine? I don't know if you know, but the Scarborough Museum and the Conservative Reform, they have a lot of our nice things. Could you imagine, what would you do? Let's just even take something not even Beis Hamikdash. You know how the conservatives now, what they do on Simchas Torah? I saw a video. They all take out the Torah and they're all pulling at the Torah, touching the Torah, and dancing around the boys and girls together at the Torah. What would you guys? How do you feel on that? It's on tape. You could say, "What do you want to do?" Don't say it. Okay, we're not going to be, murderers. But the reaction to us when we see these things, if we saw a reform or a goy today find Kalim of the Beis Hamikdash and have a party around it, a wild party, we wouldn't just sit there and say, "Oh, how nice," right? And yet, in front of us, the Kalim, the actual Kalim, the big day Kahuna was brought out, and nothing. We were broken. The Geula didn't come. We felt in this story, we were hopeless. HaKadosh Baruch Hu abandoned us, and that was, we were sucked of all happiness. Who's the guy in Harry Potter that takes out all the happiness of a person? What is that?
Pascal?
What?
Pascal.
Yeah, I don't have any Harry Potter fans here. Dementors, right? It's like a Amalekite. Yeah, isn't that what it is? Anyway, that was going on. By the way, Derek Agav, the Rambam, writes that it's more important to give Matanos Levyonim than Mishalach Manos. Because there's nothing more depressing when you don't have any money to pay for anything, and someone comes along and gives you 1,000 shekels or something. It's awesome. Okay, today I have a different take on it. It's just a total side point. But when you give, I hold that today Reus is very important in Achdus and Klal Yisrael. Yes, a person should give them Matanos Levyonim, and you give it to people who are collecting, and therefore they can amass a good amount and really make a difference. 5 or 6 or 10 different people, I know someone who was doing horrible, and all of a sudden they made a tremendous collection. He didn't know about it. He gave him $5,000. Okay, it was enough to pay for not all his debts, but it got him out of it. That's restoring the soul of someone. I personally hold that you guys should send Mishalach Manos, and a lot of them. You don't have to spend a lot of money. I think one year I didn't have a lot of money, and I bought these shekel chocolates, and then I put a strawberry on with it, and I just gave it ended up being a shekel and a half per person. I was able to buy 30 of them and give them out. Remember, when you give Mishalach Manos, you give your friends, but who else do you give?
We don't like.
What?
People who don't like.
What?
People who don't like.
That's right. Give it to people that will really appreciate it. There are popular people in this yeshiva, and there's some people that are not as popular as others. When you give them, they really feel good, cared about. And this idea over here of not being cared about. Okay, so let's get back into the subject matter. This is all coming from the Or Gedaliyahu. Okay? The Koach, and Amalek was given great kochot. His koach is his gematria. What's the gematria of Amalek? Here we go. Oops. Nope. Blank piece of paper on any side. Can we write the word Amalek over here? Here we go. Now you're gonna have to follow me around. What is ayin? Mem. What is an ayin? 70 plus 40. 110 plus 30. 140 plus 100. What is that?
240.
Thank you. Okay, watch the gematria of this. What's the gematria of Suffolk?
240.
240. A mullet, what a mullet does in the world is create doubt and Suffolk. This is it. It's what we call dimyon. Fantasy, imagination blurs the reality that things are chance and happens to be. What was the big thing that Haman did? He casted a lot. What does a lot basically say? I don't have to put any thought into it. Chance, whatever day happens to, even though he did it in a brilliant way, it's like, it was a lot. It just happens to fall on this. Guys, the confusion in the world. What do we say when we're going to read on tomorrow? Asher korcha. What does korcha mean? What does bekorcha mean? Guys, you have to know what every word means. It's like happened. When the Torah is so deep, when they use a word like korcha, I mean, there's many meanings. There was something, they cooled us down. We were so hot, and they jumping in, cooled it down. It also comes from a word of keri, but it also means a mikra. It just happened to be, meaning his kochot of a Moloch since he came into the world. Our job is to be the Or Le'amim, a light to the nations, showing the world about morality, that there's a God in this world, there's Olam Haba, there's what to work on. This is what the Jews been doing. You look in ancient history, there was no such thing as social justice. Tzedakah, that you're responsible for your actions, and there's a reckoning. I mean, the Christians did take it in a perverted way and made it much more in the world. But this is our job, is to show that there's Seder and order in the world. And what does a Malach come and do? Korcha. It's all chance. There's no real meaning in the world. Guys, you know one of the greatest inventions of a Malach in this world is? It's not my idea. I think I heard this from Rav Varon. The whole concept of evolution. What does evolution do? Guys, all the facts are against evolution. The world is a world of order. And today, with the untold amounts of experiments and pristine laboratories, you could just keep on creating such an environment to try and prove origin of life or some kind of species involved into another species. How much success has, from the time that Darwin came until today, proving that species could evolve into another one? Anybody know how many? How many people have been able to prove the origin of life, or at least changing one species to another? Zero. Guys, this is a ridiculous statistic, because the world, everything is pointing to, there's a creator, there's a building. If there's a building, there must be a builder. The whole beauty of the world, and yet they've been able to prove zero. And yet, a Molech, this is the concept of a Molech, bringing Suffolk into the world, confusion, by even suggesting it. And this is what we have. We have, again, the opposite of what we want this world to be, of a world of order and a world of understanding and belief in God. And that's really our whole job. That's the Messianic age, is to bring the whole world into the understanding that there's one God in the world. And who's coming out there and at every chance in history to try to break, smash, add doubt into the world. I mean, what evolution basically did, before evolution, there was, the Bible critics already started, but they couldn't get anything. When Darwin came out with this theory that you don't need God in the world anymore, that the world just happened, there was an origin of species, and then they changed, it was, the whole world took on it against all possible knowledge. There was there's a book that I read years ago, and it still bothers me today. I shouldn't tell you the names, but I will to keep away from it. You guys know James Mishnah? Very famous Pulitzer Prize winner. He wrote a lot of books. One of the books he wrote was called The Source, where he brought the whole history of especially the Jewish world, trying to conceal God. It was just like all the events of the Bible, he took that there was some credibility to it, but he showed how it was all natural and stuff like that. All the Bible critics are trying to do that. You know, at the time of the Exodus, I saw a theory, it was the craziest theory, that, you know, in the Greek islands there's an island called Eos, which is an island that was, it's a crater. It's still part of an island, but you could see that it was a volcano that totally blew up. It blew up at about the time of the Cretan Empire. You ever heard of Minos and the Golden King Minos, the Golden Touch?
Yeah.
Okay. So it completely destroyed. I mean, the island is buried in volcanic dust, a lot of Crete. When did this happen? You know when it happened? It happened during the Exodus. Not only during the Exodus, specifically on the seventh day of the Exodus. What happened on the seventh day? This volcano blew up, and because of that, the shaking of the earth over there caused a tremendous tsunami. You know what happens when a tsunami happens? First, all the water is drawn in, and guess what happened at that moment? By chance, what happened? All the Klal Yisrael went through the water, and then the tsunami came when we were on fair side. This is how they bring it down. They bring it down to create doubt. Maybe, it's something that there is, by the way, proof of the Exodus. They find things, they cover it up. They found, like, you know, things in the middle of the Red Sea, a whole army of Paro, you know, chariots in the middle of the sea. They can't explain these things. And yet, they just try to make it into some way, into chance. Once you eliminate that there's a creator or there's chance in the world, well, maybe they just didn't find yet the origin of life, things like that. That's a Moloch, and that's everything that we're up against. Rav Left once brought down an incredible idea. Anyone here learning Megillah at all, or learned a little bit of Megillah? First parak of Megillah. What daf is it? Daf Yud Dalet. There was brings a very innocent Gemara, and yet it has such depth to it. There were two people. One had a big pile on his property, and one had a big ditch in their property. The one who had the pile, you remember this Gemara, anyone? One who had the pile just wished, I wish there was someone that would, take my pile away. I'll even pay him for it. And what the guy with the ditch say? I wish someone could fill up my ditch. I'd even pay them for it. So they ended up meeting and they came together, and the one who had the ditch filled it up with the pile of the other person. So that's what the Gemara says, and it's very deep. Listen to what's going on over here. Rav Left says this. Achashverosh is two approaches to the Jewish nation in the history. You can't ignore the Jews. That's just the facts of it. We are something in the world. When a little nation comes and just has so many Nobel Prize winners and is just so in the new, with the most minuscule of all nations, and yet, we're all of it. There's even a Democratic, what do you call it? Nominee is Jewish. We're everywhere. Esther was in the king's palace. Everywhere you find, Jews are in the most influential place there. Even Trump. I saw a picture of his daughter. From girl. It's her with her husband. Her husband has a kippah on. Okay? So there's two ways. You either have to deal with it or totally ignore it. You know what a pile is? A pile is mamashot. Meaning there's something to it. You just got to get rid of it. I don't want it. There's a big pile on my property. What do you do with it? Christianity, by the way, has a very big problem with us. Theologically, they have to deal with us. So they have all in their theology, they have all these things. We need the Jews around because at the end of the days, they're going to have to be the ones that are going to accept. And now when Jews came back to Israel, that was a tremendous blow to the Catholic Church. Really, how do you explain? You mean the prophecies that are written in Yeshaya and Zechariah and all that, and Yecheskel? We always thought that we're the Jews, the chosen people. Who's coming back to Israel? Is it the Christians? Not at all. You once got it when you did. So, by the way, they have an answer for it. Over the last number of years, especially the Baptists, the whole Southern Belt, they are very pro-Israel. Nefesh B'Nefesh was started by who? The Christians. It wasn't the Jews. They weren't Jews here. Now the theology is, no, we need all the Jews in Israel, and we want them. By the way, I have a Christian group that comes every year during the Feast of the Tabernacle. Do you know when that is? Sukkot. And I'm in touch with them. And I'm kind of like, not proud to say, but they like giving us money. We're a big family. Like, yes, more Jews in Israel. Because they hold now you need the Jews in Israel. Because I don't want to say second, because it's really going to be a big surprise. But when the coming comes, the Jews have to be here to admit it. To admit the Mashiach when he's going to come. This is what they hold. Theologically, they got to deal with the fact that we're here. So they have this new thing. They're very pro. Most, fundamental Christians today are very pro the Jews being in Israel, and they're quite favorable to us in American politics. Because we're mamashot, we're a pile. They don't know what to do with us, but they got to do something. You know what Amalek says? It's a ditch. It's nothing. Worthless. Air over here. Nothing. Like the Nazis. We just get rid of it like it never existed. Empty. Nothing. Right? This is the way Amalek, because they don't hold of anything special. They don't have that. They're the opposite of the belief of God. They are the destructions of the belief of the God. And when you deal with Jews, nothing. You look at the way the Nazis put us out. They made us subhuman, not even human, not a race that there's even something of mamashos to the Jews. Guys, big philosophical issue. What's worse? Avodah Zorah or atheism?
Atheism.
I'll tell you why Avodah Zorah could be worse, and then we'll talk about why atheism is worse. You're right. Avodah Zorah, could you imagine you're like this really wealthy guy, okay? And you like your nephew, and you decide to buy him like a brand new Porsche, right? And with very proud, you give the keys to your nephew, and your nephew takes it, drives it around, and he notices everything, and he comes back, he says, wow, it was 5-speed, and had the latest stereo, and the top came down and everything, and in front of the uncle walks by the uncle's biggest enemy, and the kid goes, thank you so much. Talking to who? Not the uncle who bought it, but to the enemy of the uncle. How does that feel to the person? You go up and when you thank the dog god or something. It's when you thank the wrong person where you owe appreciation to this one. None of that is enemy, so-called. Avodah Zorah is a slap in the face of God, the Creator. Yeah?
But God knows those things aren't there, so it's like a cute thing to him. It's like a cute little
But to us, when we who are supposed to be created in this world to recognize, that's the purpose of being in this world. It takes years to recognize God is in the world. By when we do it, it's destroying the purpose of creation. And that's not that Hashem gets jealous. The jealousy is there's a purpose to Ma'aser Bereshit. And when someone who should be fulfilling the purpose goes the opposite way and is defeating the purpose, that causes tremendousness. But guys, when we understand over here on atheism that there's nothing, it's just blank. They say with an Avodah Zorah person, at least they believe in something. You got to talk to them. The uncle's got to go, oh, my son, my nephew, you got it all wrong. Look, I was the one. You can talk rational to it. But if everything is chance and it's all evolution and there's nothing really any difference between a cockroach and a person because they just develop differently on the evolution scale, and yet these people aren't the same people as like maybe the Aryan race, because we're a higher level, and therefore when it comes down to it, we can totally dominate and do whatever we want. And it's not so far from our minds. That's what the Nazis did. The Nazis held if you could get away with it, you get away with it. anything going on today that the Nazis, they came into countries, enslaved everyone, killed anyone in their way, in the most gross ways, steal everyone's national treasures. It's ours. We're the master race. We set the laws. Nothing. No God, no nothing, no one to be accountable for. That is what Amalek is about, and that's what our battle is over here. Guys, sometimes, we get lost. We got to remember, we are not Nazis. We are held to a Torah. And we always, you read the Tanakh, and there was tremendous battles. What were those battles? Those were the battles of David and Malach, Sanhedrin, what the will of Hashem was. We don't just do things like that. This is what Amalek, yes, those are people that we wipe out. But regular people, we hold to a higher thing over here. Guys, this is really, if you go deeply, and I'm just going to go in the last 5 minutes, I'm just throwing an idea out to you. The Vilna Gaon has 4 Perushim on Megillah Esther. One of them is Pshat, it's beautiful, there's Remez, there's Drush, and there's Sod. In one of them, he develops the idea, we know that God's name is not mentioned in the Megillah, right? There is evil and good. There was Achashverosh, who is the Yetzer Hara, that consumes. Who does he consume? He consumed Vashti, totally destroyed Vashti, tried consuming Esther, but Esther had help over there. You had Mordecai on it. And you have a Haman, there's a deep level that Megillah Esther, from beginning to end, is the struggle between good and evil in the world, which was a nimshal, or we're the mashal, that's the emes, whatever is our world and what we go through the generations on a very deep level, and what's coming to the end that we're hoping, in our days, is the completion of the world, of the good overpowering the evil. Amalek is the other side of it. And when we read Megillah Esther and the seemingly natural functioning of the 9 years of Achashverosh and the whole the Hafachu that we come around and we see that, oh my gosh, it was a Kodesh Baruch Hu there, and such a revelation. That's the simcha of Purim, of realizing it. The battle's still on. This Shabbos, Parsha Zohar. We got to go there. We got to remind ourselves that there's a concept of a Moloch in the world, and a Kodesh Baruch Hu's kisei is not shalem all the time. That you have a nation that's on the opposite end of us, that's trying to destroy the hope of the world. And on our part, our job is to make the Kiddush Hashem. And guys, really, on a metaphysical level, what makes this world greater is us. When we do mitzvahs, we cause tov in the world, which gives strength to the tov, which is like the metaphysical idea. Amalek is destroying, we gotta build. And when people come and they're sitting and they're trying to learn and they're trying to change and do things, that's why all this yeshiva is like the revelation of God in this world. You see people in high school, I won't talk about anybody's high school over here, and you look at a 12th grade class, and you gotta say Hashem Yerachim. What is going to? This is the future of the Jewish nation. And so, what does the Kodesh Baruch Hu do? He puts a crazy idea of, go to Israel, to yeshiva, to do what? Party? Maybe in the first month or two, until the power of the Torah comes up, and you're literally having thousands and thousands of youth streaming from the Western world culture coming to Israel, and all of a sudden getting turned on. And all of a sudden you have from the high school people that have no cares with the Yahadut coming here and becoming Talmidei Chachamim, and people really interesting, and the girls, and they're meeting and creating families over here. Guys, this is the battle. This is the battle, the Purim battle. The battle of the good and the ra, understanding that there's a force in this world that's trying to do everything that we really want to, and it enters us. And as we started with the mushal of the guy, I remember seeing a guy at a picnic, beautiful weather, everything. We even made little steaks, and the guy's sitting there. You call this a steak? And giving like a little. Everything was beautiful, and he's miserable, meaning he lost track of what's good. That's a mullik. Getting into the world over here. When we uproot Amalek, the world is just gonna empty into a greater state, and that's why Adar, when Rosh Chodesh Adar comes in, everybody's thinking Purim. Everybody's thinking the Megillah Esther and the story of the Megillah Esther and how Kodesh Baruch Hu was maneuvering things straight through. It got very scary at some points that we almost, got a total, Lahashmid. He wanted Lahashmid, Lahar, Lahabeda, everybody went Taf Nizoket. Amalek. But as we see in the story, HaKadosh Baruch Hu rules. This is the battle between Amalek and the Jews.